I'm the president of Gradual Prosperity, and I want to answer the question today, why budget? Well, many of my clients come to me and they find themselves in the middle of a financial crisis and they don't know how to get themselves out. They may have had no system for handling their money and now it's really a mess. They may have entered adulthood with a lot of debt to begin with, like student loans. They may have just been chronically overspending a little bit each month, but after 10 years or so, it becomes kind of an enormous problem. They also may come to me and think, well, if I just made more money or if I could declare bankruptcy, this problem would go away. That's not true at all, because we need to learn to live within our means. We need to learn to spend every dollar up front and make a plan. So the answer to the question, why budget, is because it's the foundation of a healthy financial life. And I'm not overstating that, because every decision you make, if you make and follow a budget, will be an informed decision. You will know upfront where every dollar is going. You'll still have shortfalls and you'll still have problems, but you'll see them coming and you'll have a way for handling it. I believe this is an essential skill for you to learn. That's why I made this series, and I'm here to teach it to you. So I talked a little bit about why budget. Now I want to talk about why me. What makes me so special? I remember sitting in investment class in college and the professors telling us how to calculate the rate of return on an investment. And I thought to myself, well, that's great, but how do you know how much money to invest in the first place? How much money should you be living off of? What should you be spending on different things? So I kind of always had an organic interest in personal finance, even at a very young age. So I graduated from college, I got married, I had children, and my husband and I, through a process of trial and error, figured out how to handle our money, in some ways good, some ways bad, but we figured out a system that worked for us. And then the 2000s hit and we really started seeing our emergency savings grow and our retirement was growing and we were putting away money for college for our children. And I started to feel like I was successful at this. Successful enough that I felt like in 2009 to go to Nashville and become a Dave Ramsey trained financial coach. So I went through the training, I came home and I set up a business and hung my shingle, so to speak, and got ready to help everybody with their financial problems. And then this perfect storm of the economy going off the rails hit. I mean, the recession was so bad and it hit my clients for sure, and it hit us personally as well. So I had to figure out a way to really sharpen the budgeting process and navigate my family through this financial crisis that was happening at home, as well as helping my clients get through their own problems, which were enormous, I might add. So out of this storm, my system was perfected. It was forged in the fire, if you will. And when I look back, it was a very, very painful time. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think everybody would agree if you were around at that point. But it was also really a blessing for me because I learned how to manage my money personally much, much better than I did before. It also made me a really good financial coach. Since that time, I've helped over 650 clients reap the rewards of taking control of their financial lives. That includes peace of mind, security, and hope for the future. I've helped them, I've helped myself, and I can help you too. Most of my clients envision budgets to be confining, like a straitjacket, or restrictive somehow, and they're reluctant to do it because, they feel that they're going to just be tied down. I actually think it's bigger than that. I think the reluctance to budget has a bigger emotional component than what we're giving it credit for. Sometimes it's depressing. It's depressing to see your situation and see where you're at. Sometimes it is calculating, like you somehow can put a dollar amount to how much fun or vacation you can have, or how much you love somebody by how big of a gift you can buy. Sometimes that's a component. In a marriage, sometimes it's a weapon. The budget is a weapon, a way of controlling the other person in there. With my single clients, particularly women, it's completely conflicting because for women, money is security, but they still want the shoes, So it's tricky. So it's not just sitting down and doing math. Math is 20% of the budget. It's dealing with all of your emotions and deciding where your resources are going to go. That's the biggest hurdle of getting people to budget. Okay, we've talked a little bit about how a budget can bring up negative emotions, but it does ultimately end up being a very empowering tool. The budget will start out being negative, drumming up these negative emotions, but it becomes neutral when, for instance, you start naming the dollars that are in your possession and you look at your money in your savings account, for instance, and you see a big lump sum of money there and you haven't given it a name. In your mind, it's all fun. It's all savings money. So when you have to pull out money for a car repair, that's painful. But if you separate those dollars and name the dollars that are in your possession, you've already in your mind, let's say, spent that on home repair or car repair. So when that bill comes due, it's just a matter of writing the check. You've already processed the negative emotion with naming those dollars car repair. You don't personally visualize yourself taking money out of vacation to pay the car repair. That's car repair money you've set aside. It's okay. It's a neutral emotion. But you'll actually move to positive if you budget long enough and effectively enough, because you will be able to sit down and pay your bills a lot quicker because you're going to have a lot less of them. You're debt-free. You're seeing your assets grow and you're putting money to the things that are important to you, like vacation or memories with your children or education or wealth building or giving or whatever form you want your life to take. Your money will start being directed to what's important to you. What is a budget? A budget, for our purposes, is an Excel spreadsheet. It lists all the income and expenses for a period of 1 month. Now, on the income side, you're going to list all your paychecks throughout the month. But if you receive overtime or commission money or bonus money, that will only impact the month of which it's paid, only the month in which you receive it. Expenses, however, are different because you're going to include not only your recurring expenses like food or your rent or mortgage, gasoline, utilities, etc., but you also need to account for those irregular expenses that happen periodically but ultimately trip you up. By that I mean Christmas, for instance. It comes at the end of the year. You need $600 for gifts, let's say. Well, you need to be saving $50 every month for that. If you have an annual insurance premium that's due mid-year, for instance, you need to set aside 1/12 of that annual insurance premium every month. So for our purposes, it's really important that you keep this distinction in mind. We're going to account for income in the month we actually receive it, and we're going to account for all expenses, whether recurring or irregular, in every single month. What makes a budget effective? First, it must be proactive. It must be done upfront before the month begins. You're going to make a plan. You're going to follow that plan. It must be encompassing. Your paycheck comes once or twice a month, but your bills come all throughout the month. And the goal is to have your bills paid on time and in full. So you're going to have to decide what bills get paid out of each paycheck. It encompasses the entire month and it smooths out your cash flow. The next thing is it must be useful for forecasting, okay, making future decisions and not looking back. But if you sit down and you look at your budget, you're going to be able to tell how long is it going to take you to have that debt paid off? When is your emergency fund going to be fully funded? When do you have enough money to actually buy the plane tickets and take that vacation? It's useful for forecasting. You can tell when it's going to happen. And the final thing is it's fluid. One point that I haven't driven home enough yet, but you will hear plenty of it later, is we don't want to use credit anymore. Credit is not a good thing. So if you have a problem in your month, an unexpected car repair or medical expense or something that you didn't anticipate to that magnitude, you got to put that bill in, and it's going to impact other categories in your budget. And your budget has to be adaptable enough to absorb those shocks when they occur without having to turn to credit. In our next video, we're going to set financial priorities.